The sous chef I fired became a tech titan. She hired me to cook a Michelin meal that survives a delivery bike. 10 years ago, in the kitchen of my Michelin-starred restaurant, L'Origin, I fired Ava Lynn. She was 24. She was my sous chef. And she was brilliant, but she was vibrating on a frequency I couldn't stand. I walked into the prep station. It was 3 p.m. The kitchen was usually quiet, a rhythmic chopping of knives on wood. But at Ava's station, it sounded like a machine shop. Ava was small. She had to stand on a rubber mat to get leverage over the deep counters, but she took up space with her energy. Her jet black hair was pulled back in a messy knot that was already falling apart, strands sticking to the sweat on her neck. Her chef's coat was a size too big, swallowing her figure. The sleeves rolled up to her elbows, revealing forearms burned by oven racks. She wasn't chopping herbs by hand. She was reprogramming the combi oven. She had set up an assembly line for the plating process that looked like something out of a pharmaceutical lab. "What is this?" I asked, pointing to the rows of vacuum-sealed, pre-portioned sauces. "It's optimization, chef," she said. She turned to me. Her dark, almond-shaped eyes were wide, scanning the station like a computer processing data. She had a smudge of flour on her high cheekbone. If we sous vide the base and flash sear at the pass, we cut ticket times by 4 minutes. We ensure 100% consistency across 300 covers. I picked up a bag. It was perfectly measured, perfectly sealed, and perfectly cold. "Ava," I said gently, putting the bag down, "you're automating the romance out of the dish." "I'm eliminating human error," she countered, wiping her hands on her apron. Her movements were jerky, fast. "Error costs money." "The error is the humanity," I said. "People don't come here for consistency. They come here for the struggle, for the feeling that a human being sweated over this specific plate." I took a breath. I knew what I had to do. "You're too good for this kitchen, Ava," I said. She blinked. Her mouth opened slightly, revealing straight white teeth. She looked confused, like a kid who just got an answer wrong on a test she studied for. "Excuse me. Your mind, it works in vectors, in scale, in logistics. You try and solve a puzzle that I don't want solved. I want art. You want engineering." I took the apron off the hook. "I'm letting you go," I said. "Not because you're failing, but because staying here is shrinking you. You're trying to fit an ocean into a cup." I handed her the check for her final week. "Go find a place that values speed," I told her. "Go find a problem big enough for that brain. But you don't fit in a traditional kitchen, Ava. You're not a line cook. You're an architect." She didn't cry. Her face went still. She took off her apron, folded it neatly, and placed it on the stainless steel counter. Underneath the bulky coat, she was wearing a faded gray t-shirt. She looked so young. "You're wrong, Julian," she said quietly. "You think tradition is the only way to show care. I think feeding more people better food is the ultimate form of care." She looked me in the eye. "I'll go find that problem," she said, "and when I solve it, you'll see." She walked out, her sneakers squeaking on the tile floor. Fast forward a decade. L'Origin is gone. I didn't go bankrupt. I wasn't incompetent. But the industry changed. Rents tripled. Staff costs skyrocketed. The margins on fine dining became microscopic. I sold the brand to a hotel group for a healthy 8-figure sum. I was rich. I was comfortable. And I was bored out of my mind. I spent my days consulting, telling hotel chains how to make their club sandwiches less depressing. It was easy money, but it felt like death by slow suffocation. Meanwhile, Ava Lynn became a titan. She founded Omnibox. It started as a meal prep delivery service. Then it became a logistics giant. She patented a flash freezing technology that preserved cellular structure. She built a cold chain distribution network that rivaled Amazon. She was on the cover of Forbes, Fortune, Wired, the queen of calories, they called her. A billionaire at 30. She had turned food into code, and she was winning. I was sitting in my penthouse, drinking vintage scotch, scrolling through LinkedIn. I saw the posting. Omnibox. Position, Director of Culinary Innovation. Reporting directly to the CEO. The job description wasn't about efficiency. It was a challenge. Wanted a chef to solve the impossible. To create Michelin-quality food that can survive a delivery bike. I smiled. She wasn't hiring a mechanic this time. She needed an artist. I applied. The OM&I Box headquarters wasn't an office. It was a tech campus in the financial district. I was escorted to the top floor. The executive suite. The doors opened. Ava was standing by the window, looking out at the city she practically owned. She turned. The messy bun was gone. Her jet black hair was cut into a sharp, asymmetrical bob that hit just below her jawline. It was glossy and perfectly straight. She wasn't hiding in baggy whites anymore. She was wearing a charcoal suit jacket that was tailored to fit her waist perfectly, and matching trousers that ended at the ankle. She wore black stiletto heels that added 3 inches to her height and made her calves look sculpted. Her face had lost the roundness of youth. Her cheekbones were high and sharp. Her skin was flawless, pale but with a warm undertone. Her lips were painted a dark matte red. She looked beautiful, but she also looked terrifying. "Hello, Julian," she said. Her voice was lower than I remembered. Steadier. "Hello, Ava." She walked over to her desk, a massive slab of black marble, and picked up my resume. She dropped it back on the desk without looking at it. "I know your resume," she said. "I know you can cook a béarnaise sauce in your sleep. I know you understand flavor profiles better than anyone in this city." She leaned against the desk, crossing her arms. "But this job isn't about flavor, Julian. It's about physics. And frankly, I think you're a dinosaur. I think you're going to try to solve problems with butter when you should be using thermodynamics." "Try me," I said. She smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was a challenge. "Follow me." She led me down the hall. Her walk was different now. Purposeful. Lethal. We entered a small, private test kitchen. It was sterile. Stainless steel. No windows. On the counter, there was a single cardboard delivery box. A standard Omnibox container. "Here's the test," she said. "Make me a tempura oyster." I raised an eyebrow. "Tempura? In a box? Tempura relies on aeration and thermal shock for crunch," she recited, sounding like a professor. "If you put a hot tempura oyster in a sealed cardboard box, the radiant heat creates steam. The steam has nowhere to go. It condenses on the batter. In 4 minutes, it's soggy. In 10 minutes, it's inedible." She tapped her watch. "You have 20 minutes. Make a tempura oyster that I can seal in this box for 15 minutes. Open up, and still hear the crunch." She sat on a stool in the corner, crossed her legs, and took out her phone. She started scrolling, dismissing me entirely. I looked at the ingredients. Oysters, flour, soda water, ice, oil. A traditional chef would just fry it harder. But that wouldn't work. The steam was the enemy. I needed to control the humidity. I grabbed the oyster. I shucked it. The sound of the shell cracking echoed in the room. I didn't reach for the flour immediately. I reached for the vodka. Alcohol evaporates faster than water. If I used vodka in the batter instead of just water, the crust would dehydrate faster, creating a harder shell that was less porous to steam. I mixed the batter. Vodka, baking soda, and trisol, a wheat starch derivative that stays crunchy, for an hour. I fried it. 375 degrees. The oil hissed. It came out golden and shattering crisp. But that wasn't enough. The box was the problem. I looked around the kitchen. I saw a bag of uncooked rice. A desiccant. I grabbed a handful of rice. I threw it in a dry pan and toasted it until it was bone dry and hot. I lined the bottom of the cardboard box with the toasted rice. "Time," Ava said, not looking up. I placed the oyster on top of the hot rice. I closed the box. "Seal it," I said. She stood up. She taped the box shut. "Now we wait," she said. We stood there for 15 minutes in silence. Ava leaned against the counter, checking her nails. They were manicured, painted black. No more rough, chef-hand cuticles. 15 minutes. An eternity. "Time's up," she said. She grabbed a knife. She sliced the tape. She opened the lid. She picked up the oyster. It was still warm. She took a bite. Crunch. The sound echoed in the silent kitchen. It was loud. It was undeniable. She chewed slowly. She swallowed. She looked at the layer of toasted rice at the bottom of the box. "A desiccant bed," she murmured, using the rice to regulate the humidity and maintain ambient temperature. "Vodka and trisol batter too," I added. "Lowers the boiling point of the moisture in the crust." She looked at me. For the first time, the cold CEO mask slipped. Her dark almond eyes lit up. I saw a flash of the chef she used to be. The excitement of discovery. "You didn't use butter," she said. "You used science." "I used whatever I needed to get the result," I said. "That's what an architect does, right?" She wiped a crumb from her lip. "You're hired," she said. "Now let's go break some real rules." She led me out of the test kitchen and down a secure corridor. She swiped a keycard at a set of double glass doors labeled R&D Kitchen, Restricted. We walked inside. It wasn't a kitchen. It was a laboratory. Stainless steel counters stretched for 50 feet. But instead of stoves, there were blast chillers, centrifuges, and industrial vacuum chambers. Technicians in lab coats were measuring viscosity levels of sauces on digital screens. "This is the engine," she said, gesturing to the room with a sweep of her hand. "I have the science. I have the logistics. I can move a box from this building to any door in New York in 18 minutes. She stopped in front of a test station. Her dark eyes locked onto mine. But the food inside, it lacked soul. It tastes like engineering. That oyster was a trick, Julian. It was clever. But I want to launch Omni Black. The luxury tier. $200 a plate. Delivered. You want me to design the menu? I realized. I want you to break the food, she corrected. I want you to cook the most fragile, complex, impossible dishes you can think of. And then I will figure out how to scale them. And if I fail? You won't, she said. You just proved you can adapt. You were right about me 10 years ago, Julian. I didn't fit in your kitchen, but you fit in mine. I looked around the facility. It was terrifyingly impressive. You're on, I said. When do we start? Working with Ava wasn't like the old days. I wasn't the boss anymore, but I wasn't the employee either. We were two heavyweights sparring in a ring. We spent 14 hours a day in the lab. I made a sole meunière, a delicate fish with a butter sauce. In a restaurant, it has a shelf life of 30 seconds. I plated it. Ava watched. She stood close, observing. Beautiful, she said. Now put in the box. We put it in the prototype delivery container. We put it on a shaker table to simulate a bike ride. We left it for 20 minutes. We opened the box. The fish was soggy. The butter sauce had broken and separated. It was a disaster. Garbage, I said. Ava didn't flinch. She grabbed a tablet. She started looking at the data. The humidity inside the box spiked. She muttered. The steam from the fish condensed on the lid and rained back down. That's why the crust died. You can't stop steam, Ava. It's heat. We can manage it, she said. We need mechanical ventilation. She called her engineering team. I need the laser cutter. We need microperforations on the lid, big enough to let vapor out, small enough to keep heat in. 2 days later, we tried again. I cooked the fish. We placed it in the new, laser-vented box. Into the box. 20 minutes on the shaker. We opened it. The crust was still crisp. The sauce was emulsified. I tasted it. It wasn't 100%. It was 95%. And 95% delivered to a couch is a miracle. It works, I whispered. Ava stood next to me. She removed her blazer, revealing a sleeveless silk top. Her arms were toned. She smelled like clean linen and ambition. We can go harder, she said. Let's do a soufflé. You're insane. Do it. Late that night, we took a break. It was 3 a.m. The lab was quiet, just the hum of the refrigerators. We sat on the floor, leaning against a stainless steel counter, drinking coffee out of beakers, because we couldn't find cups. Why do you push this hard? I asked. You have $1 billion, Ava. You could retire. She looked into her black coffee. Her hair fell forward, curtaining her face. My father, she said softly. He was an engineer. He told me cooking was a hobby, not a career. He told me if I wanted to be taken seriously, I had to build things that lasted. Food disappears once you eat it. She looked at me. Her eyes were tired but burning. So I built a system. Systems last. The food lasts too, I said. And the memory. That's why I do it. She smiled. A soft, rare smile. Maybe, she said, but I still want to win. A week later, the emotional moment was gone. We were fighting. I wanted to use fresh truffles. She wanted oil. I will not use oil. I shouted. It tastes like chemicals. And I have deadlines, she shouted back. She stepped into my space. She was a foot shorter than me, but she felt massive. She poked me in the chest with a manicured finger. Stop being a snob, she hissed. Start being a scientist. I caught her wrist. Her pulse was hammering under my thumb. Her skin was smooth, warm. I didn't let go. "Don't touch me," she said, but she didn't pull away. Her breathing was shallow. Her pupils were blown wide, swallowing the brown of her eyes. I stepped closer. I looked down at her. The sharp line of her jaw, the way her chest rose and fell. "Make me stop," I challenged softly. The air in the room got heavy, thick. We weren't talking about truffles anymore. "Microencapsulation," she breathed out, her voice trembling slightly. "Use fat spheres for the truffle essence." I stared at her mouth. It would be so easy to kiss her, to lift her onto the stainless steel counter and forget about the launch. I let go of her wrist. "Fine," I said. "Fat spheres." She stepped back, smoothing her blazer. She looked flustered. "Good," she said, turning away quickly. "Get back to work." The launch of OmniBlack was the culinary event of the decade. We didn't host it in a restaurant. We hosted it in a warehouse in Brooklyn. We invited 50 of the harshest food critics in the world, the Michelin inspectors, the New York Times writers. They sat at empty tables. No waiters. No kitchen visible. Just a QR code. "Order," Ava told them from the stage. "Anything you want from the menu. It will be here in 20 minutes. I was backstage, in the command center. I wasn't cooking. My team of 50 chefs was cooking in a dark kitchen 3 miles away. I watched the screens. Order received: beef Wellington, lobster thermidor, chocolate lava cake. The countdown clock started. I watched the GPS trackers on the bikes. Ava stood next to me. She was wearing a backless black dress that showed off the line of her spine. She was vibrating with tension. Her hand brushed mine. I grabbed it. Her skin was cool, her grip firm. "It's going to work," I told her. "I know," she said. "The math works." The drivers arrived. The boxes were placed in front of the critics. Silence. Then the sound of cardboard tearing. Then the sound of forks hitting porcelain. I watched the monitor showing the Times critic. He cut into the beef Wellington. The pastry didn't collapse. It flaked. The steam rose up. The beef was a perfect medium rare. He took a bite. He closed his eyes. He looked up at the camera. He looked stunned. "It's perfect," he mouthed. The room erupted. Ava turned to me. The tension broke. "We did it," she whispered. She grabbed my lapels and pulled me down. We kissed. It wasn't a polite, celebratory peck. It was hungry. Her lips were soft, but her grip was hard. She tasted like peppermint tea and adrenaline. I wrapped my arm around her waist, pulling her flush against me. I could feel every curve of her body through the silk of her dress. We broke apart when her assistant opened the door. "Ms. Lynn, they're ready for the toast." Ava smoothed her hair. Her cheeks were flushed a deep, beautiful pink. She looked at me, her eyes dark and heavy. "This isn't over," she said, her voice low. "My place. Tonight, you're cooking." "I thought we were getting burgers," I said, breathless. "Change of plans," she said. "I want something better." Her penthouse was like her, sleek, expensive, and intimidating. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, black marble floors. She poured 2 glasses of vintage burgundy. She had taken off her blazer. She was wearing a sleeveless black silk top that exposed her shoulders and the long, elegant line of her neck. "The kitchen is yours," she said, hopping onto the counter. She crossed her legs, her heels dangling. I took off my jacket and tie. I rolled up my sleeves. I made cacio e pepe. I boiled the high-starch dried spaghetti. I didn't rush. She watched me the whole time. She didn't look at her phone. She watched my hands. She watched the way I swirled the pan, using my wrist to emulsify the pasta water and cheese into a cream. "You have nice hands," she murmured, sipping her wine. "They're working hands," I said. I plated the food. We ate standing at the island. She took a bite. She moaned softly. It was a genuine, unguarded sound. "My God," she said. "I forgot." "Forgot what?" "That food can make you feel things." She put her fork down. She looked at me. The playfulness was gone. Her gaze was intense, predatory. "I'm done eating," she said. Part 9, the climax. She walked around the island. She stood between my legs. "You spent all month proving you could follow my rules," she whispered, running her hands up my chest. You proved you could be disciplined. She reached up and unbuttoned the top button of my shirt. Her fingers grazed my skin. But I don't want the scientist right now, she said. I want the artist. I grabbed her waist. I lifted her up onto the black marble counter, scattering the pasta plates. She wrapped her legs around me, her heels hooked onto my lower back. Ava, I groaned. She silenced me with a kiss. It was deep, wet, and desperate. 10 years of friction, 10 years of rivalry, exploding all at once. She pulled my shirt out of my waistband. Her hands were everywhere, my back, my hair, my neck. She was demanding. She was the CEO even now, taking what she wanted. I kissed down the line of her jaw. I felt her shiver. Bedroom, she gasped. Now, I carried her. She didn't let go. In the bedroom, the city lights flooded in through the glass. I laid her on the bed. She looked up at me. Her black hair fanned out on the white sheets, her dark eyes blown wide, her lips swollen. She looked like an empress who had finally found her equal. Julian, she commanded. Come here. I moved over her. You said I was trying to fit an ocean into a cup, she whispered, her hand tracing the line of my jaw. I was wrong, I said, leaning down to kiss her throat. Show me, she said, arching into my touch. Show me how wrong you were. And I did. We didn't talk about logistics. We didn't talk about scale. For the rest of the night, there was no engineering, only passion.